Hello all, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for tuning in. It is Thursday and we are about to enter week 9 of the 2022 college football season. There are 2 games on the schedule for tonight, and then the rest of the games involving top 25 teams will be Saturday. So I have got what I'm going to call part 1 of the picks to go over those 2 games, and then tomorrow on my normal schedule I will release part 2, which will cover the rest of the picks for the weekend. Without further ado, then let's get to it. There are 2 games tonight involving top 25 teams. The first one up, starting at 7:30, involves the number 24 team in the nation, the North Carolina State Wolfpack, hosting Virginia Tech. The second game, starting at 10 p.m., sees number 14 Utah on the road at Washington State. Let's start with the early game chronologically first. Number 24 North Carolina State versus Virginia Tech. The biggest news for North Carolina State is the loss of starting quarterback Devin Leary. He went out late in the game against Florida State a couple of weeks ago, and his backup Jack Chambers came in and finished off the comeback that allowed them to win that game. But the next week on the road at Syracuse, they did not play very well, and they ended up dropping that game, falling to 5-2 on the year. Devin Leary is now out for the rest of the season, which is a shame because it dashes many of the hopes that North Carolina State had for what their season could be. They're only 1 win away from qualifying for postseason play. I think they will get that win, and I think they're going to get that win tonight at home against Virginia Tech. And I believe they're going to get that win for a couple of reasons. First, they had a bye week last week after their road loss against Syracuse, so they've had an extra week to get healthy, and they've had an extra week to get their backup QB Jack Chambers prepared for Virginia Tech. Speaking of Chambers, he's not some sort of inexperienced freshman. He is in his 6th year playing college football. He played quarterback for Georgia Southern before transferring over to North Carolina State, so he's seen game action. He knows how to play the game, and I don't think he's going to get super rattled by some of the things that he's going to see against ACC quality opponents in the weeks to come for the rest of North Carolina State's season. He did lead them to a come-from-behind win against Florida State a few weeks back, so he does have that under his belt. Also, this game is home. It is not on the road like their loss a week and a half ago to Syracuse was. They're returning to the friendly confines of North Carolina State, which I think is going to make a big difference in this particular game. Also, their opponent this evening, Virginia Tech, they're a dumpster fire. They are 2-5 on the year. Their only wins coming against Boston College and Wofford. They lost to Old Dominion to start the season off by a field goal. They lost to North Carolina by 31 points. They lost to West Virginia by 23 points. They lost to Miami last week by 6 points. They are not a good team. Their quarterback is turnover prone. He's thrown a number of interceptions. North Carolina State has a strong defense. I think that defense is going to be relied on over the next few weeks to hold them into and carry them through a couple of the games. I think because of all of those above-mentioned factors that North Carolina State is going to get this win tonight. Go with the Wolfpack from NC State to get 6 wins and to qualify for postseason play this evening. The late game, starting at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, is number 14, the Utah Utes, coming off a gigantic, emotional home win against the previously unbeaten USC Trojans, are on the road at Washington State on the Palouse tonight. That win that Utah had was incredible. The crowd was out of their minds. It was back and forth, lots of scoring. Utah got a touchdown and converted a 2-point conversion try to go up by a point with about 40-some seconds to play, and their defense managed to hold USC out of field goal range, and they won that game. If this game against Washington State was being played last Thursday, or even last Saturday, I would be tempted to call a hangover game and maybe give Washington State the win. Because you see this happen oftentimes in college football. A team gets an emotional, gigantic win at home, go on the road the next week, and it's a total letdown. They lose focus. They don't have any energy. They're lifeless. They're sleepwalking through a game, and they get beat by an opponent they should have no business losing to. However, Utah had a bye week last week, so they did not play, which means they've had time to get healthy. They've had time to get over the hangover effect. They've had extra time to enjoy the win against USC, then get back in preparation mode, back on their normal schedule, and to refocus for a trip to a Pac-12 North rival in Washington State on the road. Washington State, for their part, I think their fans are going to be going out of their mind. I just think, from my experience watching college football, that there is something unique and something different about night games. Especially night games in this particular situation, where a ranked team is coming in to an opponent's stadium against a home underdog that is not ranked, that many people believe the ranked visiting team should walk all over easily, and they end up getting beat. The home crowd goes insane. I don't think I'm going to make that call this time, though. I think Utah is going to win this one for the following reasons. One, they've had a bye week. They've had time to get over the hangover effect and did not have to immediately turn around after the USC win and start prepping. They had a couple of days that they could relax, they could enjoy the win before they had to get back onto their normal schedule and start prep for Wazoo. Also, Washington State, although I would say that they're a nice team, I don't necessarily think they're all that good. I don't know what kind of offense they run. I've seen them play a couple of times. I'm not sure if they're running an air raid offense, but if they're not, their running game is terrible. They're only averaging 89 yards a game on the ground. If they are running an air raid offense, that would explain that, but it still doesn't mean that they're not a one-dimensional team. And it hasn't necessarily worked out well for them the way that it's worked out for, like, Mississippi State, who's also running the air raid offense, but they're having more success than Wazoo is having this season with it. Wazoo's quarterback, Cam Ward, is a bit turnover prone. He's had, I think 8 interceptions this year is what I looked up. Utah's defense, meanwhile, is a ball hawking defense. I believe they've had 10 or 12 interceptions on the year. Look for Utah's defense to put pressure on Cam Ward. Look for that pressure to cause him to make mistakes. Look for Washington's secondary to take advantage of those mistakes and turn the ball over a few times. Look for Wazoo's defense to not be able to slow down Utah quarterback Cam Rising and his dual threat running and passing attack. I would not be surprised, though, if Utah did still have a bit of a hangover. Because this is being played on a Thursday night, if this was on a Saturday, even a Saturday night, I would feel much more comfortable in saying that Utah is probably going to win this game relatively easily. But because it's a Thursday night, which is a bit of an awkward night, denying Utah a full 2 weeks of rest, I wouldn't be surprised if the hometown fans are going crazy, if there's a lot of energy on Washington State's part, and Utah might be a bit sleepy early on in this game. I would not be surprised if Wazoo jumped out to a bit of a lead, 7 points, maybe 10 points, and that being the splash of cold water that Utah needs to finally wake up, get their act together, and then come back, tie the game, and then take the lead, and then eventually win. I just think Utah is too good. I think Washington State has some problems on offense. I think they've got some problems on defense. They have trouble keeping people from scoring. Utah can score points, as we saw a couple of weeks ago against USC. I'm going to go with Utah in that particular matchup. And that does it for the Part 1 picks for Week 9 of the 2022 college football season. As I mentioned a few moments ago, tomorrow, on my regular schedule, I will release the picks for Part 2, which will cover the remaining games that are being played on Saturday this coming week. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all in the next video.